Welcome, guys. I'm Rob Tatro. This is another episode of The Running Journey. This one is fun. We have a guest on here who's eloquent, who's well spoken, who shares a lot of feelings, emotions, and thoughts about running, much like Charlie and I do. And I think she epitomizes how cool it is to be a runner. She's awesome. She's all over the running community in Winnipeg. You guys all know her. You guys all love her. She's fresh off a really remarkable run in Berlin where it was really hot. She'll talk about that. She will talk about her PB, which is in the 320s, and her late entry into the sport of running, which started after she quit drinking and she realized that she could actually run and be good at it. So it's a great story. She talks about her journey. She talks about the psychology of running, and she talks about a lot of her PBs. Guys, this is episode 142 of The Running Journey, our chat with Jess Drakul. Enjoy the episode, guys. It's an awesome one. We're here live. I'm Rob Tatro. Great to be here. Another episode of The Running Journey. I'm here with my brother, Charlie Tatro. Charlie, good to see you.
Good to see you, Rob, and our guest.
Yes, and our guest. A guest get introduced next. Really thrilled, really pumped to have you on. We've been trying to get you on for a while. Really great ambassador for running in Manitoba. I love your story. I first heard your story on the Inspired Souls podcast. It was very inspiring for me to listen to your story. And I talked about it on this podcast. And they were like, we got to get her on the show. So here you are. Thank you so much for coming, Jess Drakul. Jess, thanks for being here.
I'm very excited to be here. Thanks, Rob and Charlie.
Yeah, you've had some big successes lately in your running, but maybe we'll start. I mean, I definitely want to hear about Berlin. I know it was hot. I want to hear about some of the races you got coming up, but I'm actually more interested in your running journey. How did it start? I don't think I don't know if I know that story.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that we actually talked about it that much on Carolyn's podcast when I did Inspired Souls, which you mentioned. And I think I talked a lot about my more recent running, but maybe not as much about my running, like how we got to today. So I was never an athletic person growing up. In fact, one of the greatest compliments anybody can give me is to assume that I've been athletic for more than a few years. So I was, you know, much heavier as a kid. I had asthma, still have asthma, but I had more active asthma that, in my mother's mind anyway, and I love my mother very much, but imperiled me in a lot of things like, oh, don't run too fast, don't do that, don't do this, it's dangerous for your lungs, that sort of thing. So wonderful mother, wonderful childhood, but not very active, right? So I experimented a few times with running throughout the course of my adulthood. I met and married a wonderful guy in 2015, and he said, let's run a couple of half marathons, or let's run a half marathon. So I ran a half marathon, and then I ran a second half marathon. And then I thought, I really don't like this running thing. This is dumb. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I stopped. And I thought I had, accomplished my half marathon running, and 2015 was the beginning and the end of that. So life went along, and I moved to Sage Creek, where I live now, in 2017. And then in 2020, we had COVID. And when the pandemic shut down everything, I was sitting in my house in my relatively new neighborhood a lot of the time. And I thought I should get out and run around the neighborhood or something just for activity. I'm sitting around just eating a lot. I can't go to the gym because the gyms are all closed. I do have running shoes from 2015. Why don't I put those on? So I thought if I can go to the Tim Hortons down the street and get back to my house, that'll be a good start, right? So I often say to people, I set out that day seeing if I could run to Tim Hortons and back. And 5 years later, I'm on my fourth world major. It's just, this thing accelerates in a way that, you never anticipate. And I went from being an experimental sort of couch to 5K running during the pandemic to lose a few pounds type of runner to, when I got hooked in with run clubs in Winnipeg, everything changed. I'd say around 2022. And that's when I started hearing and feeling the vibes, like meeting the Jonathan Torchias and the Junelle Malapads and those people, the Carolyn Coffins, the people that kind of move the running circle in Winnipeg, and people saying, hey, you should you should go to this marathon and you should consider running the 6 world majors. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen. I'm not that kind of runner. And then in 2023, I ran the Manitoba Marathon, and I ran it in 3:42 something, 3:42 and change. And people said, you just qualified for the Boston Marathon, right? And I was like, what? Like, I knew that I had improved a year over my previous, because my first marathon had been a year previous, and I'd run a 4:30 something. And then when I qualified for Boston, I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea I could do this. So then, it really took off. And it's just been, um, I think, building on itself and folding on itself, because the more involved you get, the more steps you take to get even more involved. Like, the more people I meet, the more I get pulled into other wonderful running endeavors. I became part of the Manitoba Runners Association really early on, even before I started with run clubs. But I joined the board, I think, in 2023-ish or so. And now I'm the secretary on the executive and their social media chair. And from that involvement, I became a race director for Run Sage Creek. And I also play a lot of roles with City Park Runners as a WFPS ambassador, a City Park Runner flight crew member, and a pacer for the WFPS. So it really, it really all stemmed from just putting on my shoes that day. And the story, luckily, the story keeps unfurling, and it's very exciting to watch kind of my own journey. At one point, Carolyn had asked me, like, what is your why? Like, why do you want to run more? Why do you want to get better at running? And I said, I have to think about this a bit. And after I thought about it, I said, because I want to continue to amaze myself, because running has allowed me to amaze myself. I thought I knew everything about myself until I started running, and then I was like, oh wow, I didn't know a tenth about like what I could do and what.
So like you're talking specifically about like what you're able to do on that piece, like
I think so.
How we shortchange ourselves all the time.
Yeah, well, in terms of aptitude and ability, but also in terms of like the levels of experience that I thought I could achieve. Like, I really didn't know before I started running that it could feel good to push against my own limits for 3 to 4 hours at a time and enjoy that feeling. I always thought that when you had a feeling that was uncomfortable, it was because it was imposed upon you, not that you chose to impose that feeling upon yourself
Yeah.
so that you could excel. And if I had grown up playing sports, maybe I would have known that. But it was like a totally different state of mind to do some of these things while running. And I guess this is where it sort of blends into the recovery from alcoholism thing, where, that it is mood altering in a way. It takes you to a different state of being. Sometimes after a run or a race, people will say, oh, how was the course? And I'll honestly, like, I'll say I was in a fugue state. Like, I don't know exactly it was great, but I can't tell you what happened. I was so in the zone. And I don't think I've ever experienced that with anything else that I've ever done except like narcotics. I haven't done a lot of narcotics.
I was gonna say booze.
Yeah.
Super cool. So two things. So qualifying for Boston and not knowing, that's pretty amazing. That's
it wasn't the goal. It just happened.
Pretty rare thing. And then number two is how you expressed your joy or your love of running in terms of like, I want to continue, or your why. I want to continue to amaze myself. I don't think I've ever heard it expressed in such a way that like makes me feel like that's exactly how I feel about running. So yeah, I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever heard it expressed that well for me. Anyway, for something that I feel as well. So
yeah, thank you. And I think part of that, like I said, has to come from not being athletic as a kid, being the kid who was forced to run around the school gymnasium or the school gravel track, and just being like, how do I get out of this? How do I hide? How do I play sick? Don't ever make me run in front of people because I will cry, I will throw up. And then voluntarily spending 15 hours a week running. And my friends and I got up this morning and ran 10 miles in the rain. Like Jen Sacco and Joy Palmer and Mindy Zhao and I, like we do this now.
At
we do
what,
it
like
for fun.
4:30 or something?
Yeah.
You don't not
Met it
you don't not
four.
run because of the rain. Come on.
I know. I'm just saying, like to
Yeah,
go,
no,
like to
no, I
volunteer.
know exactly. That's how you are now. It would have been so foreign, right?
And even when I first started running, I remember that first half marathon, and even before that, had done a 10K, and thinking, God, this is going to go on forever and ever and ever. Like, when will this end? Like
The
3
half
hours.
marathon? Oh, the marathon,
Yeah,
the race.
right. And it just seemed like such an incredibly long distance. And sometimes you talk to people who don't run, and you reposition your thinking about it again, because we get used to the endurance athletics, right? Like we think, when I hear you guys talk, for example, the things you talk about are so extraordinary, like the distances you can run. Um, the most I've ever run is like 100 kilometers, right? And that's been a very sort of when I've done Run the Peg, it's a very casual, let's stop and have a coffee kind of a pace. But at one point in my life, running 8 kilometer or 2 kilometers seemed like really a lot. And I was talking to somebody in Shoppers Drug Mart after the Winkler half marathon. She said, "Oh, what did you run today?" Because I was wearing my medal. I said, "Oh, I ran the half marathon." She said, "How long is that?" I said, "It's 21.1 kilometers." She said, "You must have trained for a really long time for that." And I thought, like, I kind of did, but over years. And now I it wouldn't always be a great half marathon, but I could bust out 20 kilometers right now. Like I could just run out the door and run 20 kilometers. And that's a kind of freedom I never thought I would have in my life, ever.
So you say that, oh, the kind of distances that, oh, the crazy stuff that Charlie and I do, but you are like us. You are like us, Jess. Like you get out. I
Well,
see you running at 4:30. I see you doing 100K just to do 100K in the middle of summer to raise some funds for a great cause. I see you doing all these, like you're. I think we're a lot more alike than you make it out to be. And Charlie's, sorry, go ahead.
I gotta say, you guys pushing the envelope on like you doing triathlons and Ironmans and ultra marathons and 7 marathons in 7 days all over the world, and hearing those things done, especially by local people, I think really ups the ante for the rest of us. Because things, and I don't know if you know Jalip Shakawat. So some of the things that Jalip has done as well, like run a marathon in the Amazon, like he's done some really, really, really cool things. And when you meet someone who's done those things, you think, maybe I could do that. And I think my husband sometimes gets a little bit like antsy when I start saying things like, "Did you hear Rob Tator ran 7 marathons in 7 days all around the world?" And my husband's like squirming, like, you don't want to do that, do you?" And I'm like, maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Charlie, you had said this one time. I think when I think it was Louis Carmier, one of our guests was on, and he had said something like, "Well, just the fact that this person was doing it," I was like, "Why can't I do that?"
Exactly.
And that's how I feel about this community all the time. That's how I feel when I see stories all the time, because I heard myself in your story when you started talking about your running journey. That was me. I got out, I was walking, and I said, "I wonder if I could run to that post over there." And that's
Yep.
just how it started. Like you going to the Tim Hortons. It's the exact same story. That was
Yep.
what was that, 2021, I think, for me. That was 4 years ago for me. So we started kind of around the same time. So
Yep.
it's crazy when you say how far it's taken us in this time and how exciting it is for the future. So I get you, and I'm on the same page as you. One, it's awesome to be inspired by others, and two, it's crazy what we can do.
Yep.
Can I touch back on the point you mentioned earlier about alcohol? And you said,
Hmm.
maybe this is like my equivalent to being in a fugue state is like, maybe it's, I don't know if you inferring that it might be a replacement type thing. Do you believe
Yeah,
that in any way?
I don't want to reduce it to that. Um, and I've done a lot of, like, I don't know how many of your, audience members know that I'm about to, assuming I stay sober one day at a time, about to come up on 20 years of sobriety in January, and I can talk a bit more about that if you'd like. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But you do hear people say things like, "Oh, you replaced one addiction with another," or, "Oh, you have an addictive personality." Like
That's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to ask you this
I,
question, because I
I
get
find
it
a
all the
lot of
time.
those statements are kind of like reductive. Like they don't really encapsulate how complicated the relationship is. But I do think it's fair to say, I think when I was drinking, and I also took I took medication. I took prescription drugs that were not prescribed to be taken the way I took them. But I think I was seeking something, um, either to turn up or turn down the volume in my life, like either to, like, I guess just that mood altering experience. And over the years, like I think I have had different forays into, um, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder when I was really young. So that was something that I feel kind of impacted a lot of different areas in my life. And I don't know if fixation is part of it or perfectionism, but I think that and I don't think OCD and perfectionism are correlated. I just mean sometimes the thought process can be similar. I think that when I started running and realized that I could be good at it, and also that it was continuing to it was giving me a space to be that I'd never been before. And I think getting drunk takes you outside yourself in a way. It allows you to get out of your own head. And I think running does that too. Even as you're sitting within yourself, maybe going through problems and figuring things out, you're also, the body's in motion, right? Like you're experiencing this different state of being. And I think it's more of that, where the alcoholism was a vehicle to be something or do something that I somewhere else to be. And running gives me somewhere else to be, somewhere to focus my attention. I don't necessarily believe I have, like, quote unquote an addictive personality, because I think I don't know, I just don't really agree with that concept. But I do think that we can sublimate our energies and our worries and our fears into things that are more meaningful than just polluting our, bodies with poison or whatever, whether that's art or dancing or sports or something like that. And I feel really lucky that I was able to find something like running, which is, I love the marathons, I love the racing, I love the volunteering, but running is accessible to me at any level. If I, like, my house caught on fire and everything I owned for running, except one pair of shoes, all I would need is one pair of shoes and I could keep running, right? And just the physical health to do it. So I think there's definitely an element of it being addictive, I guess, but I think it's just not as simple as saying replacing one thing with another. I guess if I was going to have some sort of a fixation, this is a more positive one than, you know, um, other things I could theoretically be doing with my time. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Charlie, go ahead. Otherwise, I was going to ask you, which pair of shoes would you save if the fire? What would be the one pair of shoes?
Question, Rob.
I think I have to choose a pair of New Balance shoes because I'm sponsored by New Balance. So
okay, you're sponsored.
Ooh.
How does one get sponsored?
Wow.
The City Park Runners flight crew at a City Park Runners is provided sponsorship, like running gear by New Balance. So they've given us like 6 or 7 pairs of shoes, full racing kit, like a jacket and several pairs of shorts, and yeah. So I would probably take my New Balance SC Elite 5s that I set my PR.
Are those cheater shoes? Those are the cheater shoes.
They are. You guys don't wear super shoes? That's amazing.
No.
Yeah, we wear super
They
shoes.
are the cheater shoes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, if you only keep one pair, would you keep a trainer? Maybe more of a
probably should, but these are so pretty.
Definitely keeping the fast ones.
What are you keeping, Charlie?
I'm gonna keep my Adidas Adizeros.
I wore
right now
because
I need some new Alpha Flies, but whatever.
I think I'd keep my Vapor 2s.
But the New Balance is also good.
Yeah, New Balance.
New Balance has been really good to me. I ran in the SC Elites, the Super Comp Elite 4 and Super Comp Elite 5, and I set all my PRs in those. Although I haven't really been running long enough. Like, I wouldn't say I expect to get PRs, but I think I'm still at the point in my running journey where PRs are reasonably common because I haven't run that many distances that many times, like under 20, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility. There's still some PRs to come.
And you're still young, and you're 8 to 10 years ish before you kind of reach your. So yes,
is there any, like, what's the understanding of when you reach your? I'm 46, so I've heard people say you can get better, you get faster for the first 10 years or so, and then
that's kind of what I heard too.
Yeah.
Charlie's going to disagree with us here. I think he's going to say something.
No, I think that sounds about reasonable.
What would you say? What would you say, Charlie, relative to the age you start? And so I started at 40. Am I by the time I'm 50, am I still going to be PRs? Probably not, right? Because the age catches up to the 10-year thing, probably, right?
49. There's going to be a day that's going to be your last PR. That's going to suck. Is it?
I know. I'm already thinking
Thought
about
of
it. I know it's not happening soon. Jess, it's not happening soon for you either.
No, we got
That's
it.
why
We
we
got
have
5
age
years.
graded.
We got 5
That's why
years.
we have age graded stuff. Then you
But
can be
then
like, oh no.
you can get into the long distances if you want. You could do like 100K because you know you're
Exactly.
still going to PR that because your engine is, and you're going to be smarter about it. And you haven't done 50 of those, so 100 miles.
I was listening to the backyard, and one guy was talking about PRs, and he said, like, one day you're gonna run your PR for a specific race, and you're not gonna know that's your PR, and it sounds awful. But yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like the last time you get a hug from your mom or whatever. It's like kind of
Yep.
that same feeling, like you don't know, or the last time your kid jumps in your arms and you're able to carry him because they get too old and they stop doing that. And
but we got some time. We got 5 years.
you were gonna say, Jess, sorry.
I was just going to say that I don't know if you happen to hear that CBC Now or Never is a podcast, and they had a podcast on runners and the reasons why runners run last week. And one of the folks they interviewed was Florence Barron from Newfoundland, and I'm from Newfoundland. So people were sending me this podcast, and she's 87, and she's still running the Cape to Cabot race, which runs from Cape Spear to Cabot Tower. I don't know if you spent much time in Newfoundland, but we are talking about some terrain. And this 87-year-old woman has run it 12 times, and she's still running it every year, which is just really cool. Like, that's goals. Maybe no PRs in that, but I think sometimes when newer runners say to me, you know what, because I was pacing at the WFPS run, I was pacing at the Manitoba Marathon, I think, as we were. I know you were, Charlie. Did you pace at the Manitoba Marathon, Rob?
I
You
did.
did. Did you win? Yeah, okay.
I did
So we
win
know
the
Yeah,
you won the
he
golden
didn't he
carrot.
didn't show up to the
Okay.
mandatory briefing. He skipped the mandatory briefing.
Shush. I was
Kidding.
out of
No,
town.
you were out of town. There's nothing you
So
can
anyway,
do.
people are asking you, like, what should I run? What's a good time to run this distance? And you know, you can have a general conversation with them, but I always say to people at the end, like, upright and smiling is the best way to finish a race. You know, even if you get your goal time but you injure yourself, is that really worth it? You want to be capable of pulling yourself over the finish line, right? At least.
And I bet
And,
you
Rob, is it worth it?
is what worth it?
Getting a
The PRs?
PR, but you injure yourself.
I don't think I would want that because I would want to run after.
Okay.
Like I don't want to ever not run. It's just so
exactly.
frustrating not being
And
able
it's so
to run.
fragile. Like, I think as you get older, if you're an older runner, and you haven't necessarily had a lifetime of learning about your body and trusting it. And like, for me, I think the concept of amazing myself extends to that learning of my body and things like proprioception. And if you've never been like an athletic person and you didn't, like, I'm not a team, I've never played team sports. I'm not coordinated. Luckily, running doesn't involve a ton of coordination, just like, you know, thump, 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 thump. Obviously, it involves lots of skill, but the repetitive motion, once you get it down, is, you know, pretty much the same for these endurance races anyway. And it amazes me that I learned so much about pain and my pain tolerance, because I used to think that whenever anything hurt at all, I should stop doing it. So, you know, you pick up this weight and it hurts your arm. Well, drop the weight. It's too heavy. You know, you did this race and now your hamstrings hurt. Well, obviously the run was too hard. Don't do that again. That's how I used to think. And then over the course of running and running and running and running for the past 5 or 6 years, you're like, okay, the pains that, like, you know, this hurts, but it's not like I don't think this is an injury pain. This is more like a temporary pain. Let's just see if it goes away. Oh, cool, it went away. And just that cycling and the getting to know what your body does, the way that it responds to stimula. Like, I just didn't have that understanding of it before. And now I know that if I have, you know, muscle soreness from doing a workout, it's not because I hurt myself. It's because my body is knitting itself back together and is getting stronger, not because I did something wrong. The first time I ran a marathon, my hip flexors, I guess, or some of those muscles in my, like, I just hadn't trained enough. And I felt like my legs were going to pop off my pelvis. Like, it was a horrible feeling. But I never had that again because my body got stronger. And when you see those physiological changes happening without you willing them to happen. Like your body just starts adapting. It's like, wow, that is really cool. I didn't know that my body could do that. And that probably sounds ridiculous for somebody who might have spent a lifetime being athletic. And I know you guys have both been athletic in different ways your whole lives. But for someone who just feels like their first exposure to sports was running in their 40s, it's like a miracle.
Proprioception. Did I say that right? Proprioception?
Well, I think it's proprioception, but
Proprioception. That's because I'm French, so I put the accents on the wrong words. For those
I
that
might not
don't
have
know,
even said it right.
for those that don't know, it's the body's sense of its own position, movement, or force in space. I knew it. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I did it. I Googled it, and now I'm sharing with everyone. So that was a struggle, not a struggle. That's not the right word, but that was a learning experience for you. Charlie and I always talk on this show, and maybe you've heard us say this, like fake injuries or like pretend injuries or not real. I kind of view what you were just talking about there, like, oh, my hip's a little sore, but it just kind of goes away. It's a fake. It's not a real injury. It's a fake injury, or there's a whole bunch of things where you just kind of learn to power through. But I still think it's hard. Even as many miles as I do and Charlie and you do, sometimes you're like on the cusp, like, man, is this really an injury? What's happening here? Should I stop? And
then like, I don't know about you guys, but I have a bias to assume that they're not injuries because I just want to keep running. So that's the hard part. So that's where the coach helps actually for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I know that I would be, I probably performed quite a bit better when I had a coach. Carolyn was coaching me for a while, and I think in some ways, I also was coached by Sarah Carroll of Underdogs Coaching, and they're both wonderful. But I think at this point in my career, I'm a little bit uncoachable, which is why I don't currently have a coach. Just because I really want to experience it all. I want to run the peg for 100 kilometers. I want to do Prairie Chaos. I want to do all the races in the Classic Series for the Manitoba Runners Association. I want to go running with my friends because it's someone's birthday and we're going to run 57K because someone's turning 57. I am not ready to be tied to a training plan. Hopefully that doesn't portend an injury. But so far, I'm still at the point, I think, in my career where running high mileage has yielded results. But I do want to move on to like more targeted training, speed training and things like that. Because I think I have another ceiling. Like 324 is my
oh, you took her
PR.
punchline away. We were gonna get there. No, it's okay. That's a really impressive time. Sorry, keep going.
I'd like to PR. I'd like to have a better PR in the marathon. But the marathon is by far my best distance. Like I'm not sure. Do you guys know who Scott Jurek is? The ultra marathoner?
Yeah, I read a couple of his books. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's really amazing.
I read, but I
listened to them. Yeah, I did too. Eat and Run was the one that I was listening to. And he said something to the effect of he first discovered he was good at running because when other people started to flag in the race, he got faster. And I seem to have that sort of response as well, where you try to run, like if you race me in a 5K, you will smoke me. Like not just because you're faster than me, but even a person who I have the same marathon time as will probably smoke me in a 5K. But I might be able to beat them in a longer race because I have more like just ability to keep running at the same speed. Like people will look at my splits and they'll be like, you just ran the same speed for the entire race. Like, how did you do that? And I don't, it's like a little locomotive. It's like a chuck, but I'm not very good at the, propulsive stuff, sprinting or 5 and 10Ks. My times are okay, but I could definitely work on getting faster that way and less the long haul kind of running that I've been doing.
Can I ask you about
diesel
that?
engine is what that's called.
Exactly.
Yeah, you do a lot of miles, so you're obviously good at going forever. I like your comment about having a coach and I just want to do everything. Look, when I started running, I was like that. I just wanted to do everything. I just wanted to run a race every weekend. I wanted to, someone's challenged me to, doing a barefoot thing. I want to do that. I want to do this. I just want to try everything and do everything. And sometimes I struggle with it now because yes, when I'm chatting with Patrick, like he'll tell me, you do that if you want to do that next week, Rob, but just know that it will impact your Tokyo training. And that's okay, but just know that it will do that. Sometimes I don't want to know that. Sometimes I just want to run the 100K that I want to do and think it's not going to impact my Tokyo training. But I get the information. I appreciate the information, but it can be tougher with a coach because I was going to just try to max effort this New York race in a month we're doing the New York World AIDS Marathon, a bunch of running
That's
buddies.
exciting. Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. And one of my buddies is trying to do his first ever sub 3, and I like really wanted to run with him. He's a good buddy, and I've run a lot with him. And he ran his first ever races with me. And Phil, shout out to Phil. And I really want to run with him, but like it's not going to work to do a max effort and then to do my build for Tokyo. So in the old days, I would have just max efforted and who cares? And I just got on. And there's good and there's bad with that for sure. But obviously I'm going to have a better chance of reaching my Tokyo goal of 250 if I follow the coach's plan. And that's more important. So anyways, I agree with your point that it's like an internal struggle, right?
Yeah. I think sort of the way that I'm looking at it, like a loose plan, is to kind of do the world majors. Hopefully I could, get them all at some point relatively soon. I'd love to concentrate some more on trail as well. Just spend a year doing some of the amazing trail stuff that is out there that I haven't been doing because I feel like I'm more likely to injure myself on trail running. I actually broke my arm in 2023, and I ran a marathon with my broken arm and my cast. That's another story that's fun. But when you are booked for some world majors and maybe some cool local opportunities come up, you sort of think, well, maybe I can't do active Epica or whatever because I'm running Tokyo. What if I break my leg doing active Epica? And so therefore, I think I've been choosy in some of the things that I've done in the last couple of years, just because if I have Boston on the docket, I don't want to break my leg in Brandon Hills. But I still want to do all those things too. So I'm sort of thinking like world majors 1 year, trail running 1 year, and then I work on getting faster. But I don't know that I have that much time because, like we were talking about, like when do you start to inevitably get slower, right?
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Charlie. No,
well,
you go.
That's always the challenge for me. It's like there's not enough time to do all the things that I want to do. I have to like pick and choose, and it sucks. I want to do it all.
But you guys have done more than anyone I can think of, so you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well,
I was just gonna say that for whatever it's worth, my opinion, I would encourage you to try the track stuff and the fast stuff, the 5K and the 10K. I love running long. I think you and I are very similar. I think based on what you were saying earlier, how, I can just run forever at this pace and I'm good at the longer stuff and I like running long and I just put me on a 5-hour treadmill and I can just do that. No problem. But I never thought I'd be a guy who would like the 5 and the 10Ks. But like this last year, I did a little bit of speed work with Charlie and Greg at the what was it called? The Max Bell Center in the winter.
Right.
And it was kind of fun. And then this summer we did that mic check relay. It was so fun.
Yes, I heard that the performances were that you were quite good there.
Well, it was fun. It was just so fun to be fast. And I never thought I would enjoy doing a 5K this much, but it was so fun. And then like 5K, 10K ish work that I did with Greg at the Grant Park track there. And I know you're already fast and you're kind of being modest. And I know you're faster than you let on. But I would encourage you to go down that path and to do more of that for what it's worth, because it's so fun. And then I think it really helped me to get faster my marathon. I think maybe I'm wrong.
I do think I do know that. And I have to commit to like learning more about track and being more comfortable at track. I have an Athletics Manitoba membership and I have participated in some of the, when they have the Masters championships here in Winnipeg.
Are we Masters?
Yes.
When is Masters?
35 and up is Masters.
35? Come on. That's a kid still.
Quite young Masters. Yeah.
Come on.
But there's a great Masters running community. So I've spent some time running a little bit with Roadkill, which is kind of a running club / track club here in Winnipeg that's been around for a long time. And it extends to I know there's at least a few people outside of Winnipeg who are part of the club as well. And like they're a really close-knit group and they do track sessions all, summer and winter. So I really hope to break through my discomfort around the track. I think that it's really intimidating and maybe it's part of like, again, that sort of takes you back to high school, not being athletic. And a lot of times when you do run track, you're running with excellent runners, right? So it can be, and a lot of them are quite young. So it can be intimidating to get lapped on the track a bunch of times in a way that you don't necessarily you won't see yourself getting lapped in a marathon because someone is just far ahead of you. You don't see them anymore. But on track, you sort of watch this person pass you multiple times. And I guess I'm still sort of, it's an ego thing, right? Like it track isn't gratifying to my ego the way that certain other types of running are. And maybe that, wow, I'm doing some like psychological introspection as we're speaking. But I think if I could get past that, you're right. I think it would definitely yield more running dividends.
I just enjoyed it. I don't know. It was fun. Hey,
Yeah, it's fun.
I wanted to, okay, well,
I mean,
obviously
we're kind of like, Rob, we're kind of like, we've always had kind of the athletic, more like competitive background, so it kind of fits
Right.
in our mold a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
But I think you'll enjoy how good you feel. You get a sense of accomplishment after those workouts,
you're going to be fast.
and
You're
you
going to
start
be
feeling
so
fast.
fast.
So
Yeah. Well, I think you know that.
anyways, yeah.
I want to ask about your plan for next year, and I know you said all majors. I want to ask you about Berlin, but do you have a bit of time to chat about your sobriety story real quick? Can we
Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite
I like
story.
that story because it's you and I have similar stories there.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I'm about to be, or I think I'm about to be 20 years sober in January. So on January 11th, 2006, I had my last drink. I was living in London, Ontario. I was doing my first master's degree at Western. And over the course of my master's degree, I had really started drinking more and more and more and more and more. And I was also taking tranquilizers for anxiety and kind of mixing those with alcohol. And I hadn't been drinking. I was actually an excellent student. I didn't start drinking until I was 19, when I was legally able to do so, and descended really, really, really quickly into loving alcohol, drinking all the time. And it was, I think, sort of shocking to people. I mentioned that I had like OCD and I did have some mental health challenges growing up. So again, terms like self-medicating, I'm not sure how I feel about that, whether I think that is exactly the right word to use, but I do know that the first time I had alcohol when I was 19, I thought, ah, yes, that's it. This is how I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to feel. As if like my whole life I'd been scrambling around in the dark looking for something and I grabbed it and then I had it in my hands and it changed me inside the way that I needed to be. So of course, when you find something and it feels like that, it's usually not a good sign, right? Because most of those things are external to you and a lot of them are dangerous for you. So I drank from the period of time that I was 19 to 26. And over that period of time, like lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of opportunities, managed to actually damage my liver to the point where I was hospitalized. And again, I'm no expert in addictions or biology, but my understanding is that with small body mass, like I'm a pretty small person, uh, the amount of alcohol that I was pouring into my body is metabolized differently because I'm female and small, and it probably has a disproportionate impact on your organs, right? So I had an enlarged liver. I had alcoholic hepatitis when I was 26, and this happened when I was living in Ontario, and I kind of stopped answering my phone for a few weeks. And I talked about this story a bit on Carolyn's podcast, but my father, who lives in Florida, my family, my half brother, half sister, my stepmom, they all live in the States. My father, who lives in Florida, was calling me in Ontario, and I was not answering the phone. And my mother, who lives in Newfoundland, they're both remarried, was saying to my father, you know, I can't get her on the phone either. Nobody knows where she is. So I guess they assumed that they should probably check on me. And my dad flew to Ontario and rang my doorbell. And I answered the door and didn't recognize my dad. I didn't know who he was. So he took me to the hospital and I was admitted there. That's where they told me I had alcoholic hepatitis. I was on IV fluids for several days. You know, they gave me Valium. They said, you know, because there's a detox procedure where you basically I had been kind of afraid to stop drinking on my own because I thought I might actually have delirium tremens. Like I was really, really physically addicted to alcohol. I hear people talk about um, party drinking or, you know, binge drinking. I'd go out with, you know, my friends and have, you know, 30 drinks and then I wouldn't drink for a month. I was 2 bottles of wine every day kind of drinker. Like get up in the morning, put 2 bottles of wine in my bag, go about my day, drink throughout the course of the day, go into the bathroom, pop the cork out of the bottle, drink some of the wine, put the cork back in the bottle. Of course, the key was eventually screw caps were much better for that. Drink some of it, go about your day. And people will say things like, well, how did people not know you were drunk? And they probably did sometimes know that I was drunk, but you just deny it. People will say, are you drunk? And you just say, how insulting. Like, how could you say that to me? And this, especially if you're drunk all the time, you can probably pull that off because you're just acting like you always do. So I think everybody who's maintained that constant level of drunkenness for a few years knows what I'm talking about. Because there's only like you have to drink in the morning, you drink all throughout the course of the day, you drink before you go to bed, you wake up in the middle of the night to drink. That's what you do. You do it like that's just how I lived until my liver gave out. And I was hospitalized for that. And I said I wouldn't drink again. And I lasted 6 weeks. So
That's not bad.
this is not bad, I guess. I don't know, I can't remember if I told this story on Carolyn's podcast or not, but I started drinking again on Boxing Day 2005. And then I don't remember anything between like Boxing Day 2005 and January 11th or about January 9th because I got sent home from work. I actually worked at the Liquor Control Board of Ontario at a store, and I went into work. I had fallen the night before and hit my forehead on my tub. So I think what happened was that I went into work with like a big black or, swollen head. And then I went into the staff room and I started drinking the wine that was in the staff room that was there for like tastings. And the manager came in and said that I had to go home. And I thought that was kind of mean, but he sent me home in a cab. And once I got home, I thought this isn't good. Something really bad is happening here. And I called somebody that I knew and asked them to bring me alcohol. And there's always people that will do that, no matter how bad you are, especially if you're female. And this person brought me a bottle of wine, and I started drinking it because I was really in need of alcohol at that point. And I drank about half this bottle of wine. Then I had to grab a trash can, and I just put my head in it, and I threw it all back up. Sorry if this is too much. You can just edit this out. But I remember looking at the bottom of that trash can and thinking, does it have to be like this? Because this is really horrible. Like this is the rock bottom they talk about, right? And that wasn't the last drink I ever had. The last drink I had was the next morning when I finished off that bottle of wine. And then I went to detox by myself. And it was a Salvation Army detox in London, Ontario called the Center of Hope. And it, I think a lot of people think about rehab as an area that you go, and it can be very ritzy. It can be, you go to one of those fancy rehabs in Ontario or in BC or something like that. But I started my journey at the Salvation Army, and most people that were in there they'd probably come right out of psychiatric hold. Like I was on a 72-hour psychiatric hold at one point, and then I went to this detox on my own. And I think that the elective nature of me going to detox on my own was what was the difference maker. So I'm absolutely grateful to, my dad for coming to pick me up and bring me to the hospital like earlier that same year. But being placed under observation and, you know, taken out of a medical emergency isn't the same thing as making a decision on your own. And there's a lot of, once you are a return visitor to an emergency room for alcoholism, the patience really starts to decline, especially when they can see why you were there last time. So I kind of had to go to this detox. And as soon as I had been there for a couple of days, I started to realize that it was actually possible to not drink. And I ended up, because I have family in Winnipeg, like I said, I grew up in Newfoundland, moved to Winnipeg after my master's degree. But when people ask me why I moved to Winnipeg, I just say I moved to Winnipeg to go to rehab, like, and I stayed because I loved it, and I do love it here. I still love it.
There's the commercial. There's the commercial for Tourism Winnipeg.
That's right. I love it. Like this is the only place that I have lived, and I've always been sober.
That's awesome.
Winnipeg took me in. They gave me their resources. I feel very lucky that I got to become sober at a time when the resources we have were not overwhelmed the way they are now. There wasn't an opioid epidemic 20 years ago that I could see. It wasn't impacting my life anyway. And a lot of people that I went through rehab. And after I went to rehab with the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba for 30 days or 35 days. I think they let me stay extra. And then I moved into second stage housing and I lived there for 8 months. And during that whole time, almost everyone I met was, an alcoholic or maybe cocaine, right? Like there weren't a lot of other things that people were addicted to in that scenario. But now, I mean, the drugs that you're seeing on the streets, like the levels of psychosis they cause, the homelessness epidemic, all the things coming out of that drug use is just so traumatic. And I feel like if I was to drink again today and try to access those same services, they wouldn't really be available to me the way they were then. And I feel like I got very lucky in terms of the timing of my sobriety. So
But
yeah,
you did
that's
it. Like you stayed
yeah,
sober. Like you're the one who did it. So you could take
it
some
took a
credit.
village because I really felt like, and I know I said this in the last podcast that I did, but alcohol is my true love. Like I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys felt that, but
Oh yeah. Yep. I 100% felt that. And I still sometimes think of it as an ex.
yeah, oh
Uh,
maybe that's where running comes in though. It's
well,
not,
that's what I was going to ask you, like how
yeah,
running
it's
comes
more
in.
about, I think it's more about love and less about addiction, honestly. Like I wouldn't say that I've replaced one addiction with another, but one deep love with another. Because like you said, that ex you had to leave, right? The ex
Yeah.
that you can remember, you can even remember it fondly. And you can say, you don't begrudge other people drinking. They can drink, that's fine. You just can't drink. You can't be
Yeah.
with that love anymore. But you can have other loves, and running and endurance activities are loves of like that.
I've heard you say in the past something along the lines of when I quit, the fact that I quit drinking, you know, reassured me that I knew I'd be able to finish a marathon, or I knew I'd be able to
Yeah.
finish. Um, and I remember thinking for me, and I think I've said this before, for me, it was actually the opposite. I did an Ironman and I was still drinking.
Right.
And I was like, holy smokes, I did an Ironman. Like that
Yeah.
is crazy. That has to be way harder than quitting drinking, because I had tried many times to quit drinking and I couldn't do it. And I said, okay, I can do an Ironman. I can quit drinking. Come on, Rob. Like you can do anything. And that's how it happened for me. It was the reverse of you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can prove to yourself.
Yeah. So congrats on that story. That's awesome. I enjoy hearing it. Charlie, do you want to? Oh,
Yeah,
otherwise,
no, I mean, it's reminds me. There's a couple stories that we have similarities there. I did go through the Addictions Foundation same time, a bit earlier than you, and yeah, had the resources there, and feel really grateful. And to me, it was story is a bit different. I've never talked about it, but story's a bit different for me. But there was some, things hit home. So
And you did your bike ride to celebrate your sobriety, right? Isn't that was kind
24
of
years, 24 years this year.
awesome.
what an
Awesome, awesome,
animal.
awesome.
What an animal you are, Charlie. That was unbelievable that day.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun.
Crazy.
It was a super fun day
Fun.
for me anyway.
What are the
Do you
kind of
want to
people
talk?
who call that fun?
Yes, Louis Camille always calls it type 2 fun. Like you're like, why? I'm never doing this ever again. What am I stupid? Why am I doing this? Then the next day, you're like, man, that was fun. That was so fun. You want to talk about your PR in Berlin? Berlin, how did it go? And then I'm curious about your.
And Berlin was hot too, eh?
Yeah,
Wow.
Berlin was a hot.
Yeah, my PR was actually in Boston last year.
Yeah,
and
sorry, I mean your PR and then Berlin.
I was hoping to break that PR from Boston. I don't know. I ran a 3:24:44 in Boston
In which year?
2024.
That was a tough year too. That was an easy year.
Yeah.
Because I ran that
So
one too.
because I ran 2023, that was the year that I accidentally qualified. Sorry, 2024 and then 2025. So sorry, my PR was from 2025 this year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And in 2024, I ran a 3:40:11 in Boston. That was the year it was really hot. And I remember people saying, how did you run because that was my PR at the time. So it was really weird for a while that my PR was like the Boston Marathon from the year that it was hottest. But it was only my third marathon then. Like I didn't really even understand what I was doing.
Yeah,
I
you were
had a
just
good
gearing
pacing
up.
strategy. Right. I had a good pacing strategy because I'd worked with a coach, but still didn't exactly know what the experience of the marathon was going to feel like the third time around. So the next year I ran Boston was my PR, and that was the 3:24:44, and that was still the best race I've ever had. You know, those races where it just feels good the whole time. I think I've heard you talk about it, Rob. Like it's just like this is just fun. Like it's fun to go faster. I'm gonna have to go faster now. Like this just feels so good, and you're smiling and your face hurts because you can't stop smiling. So that's what Boston was like for me last year. And then I thought, oh gosh, it must have been an accident. I don't know how I ran 6 minutes or 8 minutes faster than I thought I could possibly run. But then I did the Edmonton Marathon in August and I ran a 3:25. And I thought, oh, okay, so it wasn't an accident. I actually can run under 3:30. At least I've done it twice anyway. So fast forward to Berlin, which I was really lucky to get into on the second chance drawing. And I found out on my way to the Miami Marathon, which I ran in January, that I had gotten into Berlin. I ran a 3:35 in Miami in like 100% humidity. It was like 28 degrees. It was just ridiculous.
What day was it in January? Do you
It
remember?
was,
It was a little bit before we
I
went
think it was
there.
February 2nd.
Because that would have been,
February
I
1st.
think it was the day or two before we were there,
I think
Charlie.
it was like a week or something. It was close.
Was that
Anyway.
right at the end of your 7 marathons?
Our last
The
one
7
was
days?
would have been on
Right.
February 5th or something like that, Charlie. Am I close?
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So it was hot. Like, and I still thought, like, I placed first in my age group at the Miami Marathon. And I was like,
No big
"Ah,
deal.
No big deal.
Kinda cool, actually.
Just won my
Cool."
age group.
So local legend status right here. But I thought, okay, so maybe I should be trying for like a 3:20. Maybe that's my next frontier. So in Berlin, I thought I would kind of shoot for a 3:20. But again, as you have heard from many people, it was like the hottest Berlin in 55 years. And I do pretty well with heat. But I don't know that I was completely comfortable on the course, partly because whenever I do these distance marathons, I can't control myself. Like I can't sit in the hotel room and rest my legs. Like
Yeah,
I
you're the
probably
one who
walked
does all these shakeout runs, right? You do 3 or
I
4
probably
shakeout
walked
runs.
100 kilometers in 2 days before the marathon. Like I don't really know how my body would react if I treated it like appropriately before I ran a marathon because there's probably a few extra minutes in there if I didn't spend
For
the whole day on
sure.
the feet
There's
the
for
day
sure a
before,
few
right?
extra minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
But
I
I
used
ran
to
it.
run them too. I would spend the whole weekend just going and visiting, but yeah, it makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Well, and I ran a 3:30:11, I think, in Berlin, which looks my third slowest marathon and the hardest marathon I think I've ever run because the course didn't have the same kind of electrolytes that, and I'm thinking that was the reason, in addition
Well,
to
that's
walking
still
around too
very
much.
fast for those conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it felt really good to finish. I remember thinking, you know, when we were talking a little bit about pushing towards injury or, playing it safe to maintain, health goals and running longevity. When I'm running a world major, I really want to finish. Like I don't want to push myself and pass out because sometimes you're running these large races and you see people collapse in front of you who don't appear to know that they're going to collapse. Their legs just go out from under them. And you're like, I spent $10,000 to be here. I'm
In
going
the
to finish
last
this race.
kilometer. Think of how many people
Yeah.
you've seen passed out in the last kilometer
Right.
at races.
So,
It's crazy.
I'm always trying to be like hyper vigilant. Like, how am I feeling? Like, do I feel dizzy? Am I possibly going to, not be able to finish this in some mysterious way? So I think I could have even gone a little bit faster in Berlin, despite the discomfort, but I really did not want to screw it up. I didn't want to miss my chance to get my, my third star of the 6. And I'm a little bit more cautious, I think, at those world majors. Maybe the next time I try for like a good PR will probably be Fargo or maybe even the Manitoba Marathon here, because at least if I, push myself and pass out, they can just send me to HSC, right? Like, uh, so
Which
it's
three
a
do you
bit,
have? You have Boston, you have Berlin, and you have Chicago?
Pardon?
yeah, that's the 3 I have.
Yeah,
And
okay.
next up is Tokyo, where you guys
Tokyo.
will also be. And
Yeah.
then I just ran the Strava guaranteed entry New York City virtual. So
I
that's the
saw
program.
that. I saw that.
What
Yeah.
is this? How does this work?
So there's a program that Strava puts on where you apply in June and they select a handful of applicants. I'm not sure how many, a few thousand, I guess. And they are given the opportunity to pay to run the New York Virtual. When they prove that they have run the New York Virtual and uploaded onto Strava, that gets verified, and then they get a chance to pay, but get guaranteed entry to in-person New York the following year. So there used to be a
Oh,
pathway where you
well
didn't have to
worth it.
go. Yeah, it's great. Before this lottery system came in, they used to just let you run the virtual, and the virtual would give you access to the in-person. But then, of course, the running boom happened, and they were getting too many people applying to this virtual option. But I, lotteried into it last year, and ran the virtual this
You
weekend.
lotteried into the virtual, to be clear,
Right, that's
which
correct.
is maybe 50-50 or whatever. You don't know the odds, but it's not like one
Not
out of
exactly.
50. Like
I
It's
didn't
probably
get into
better.
the.
It's probably better odds than the general lottery, which must be pretty low for New York, I would imagine.
way better
Yes.
odds, I would imagine.
And I mean, I had a qualifying time for New York, but it wasn't like good enough to get in because I think usually you need like 20 or 30 minutes over your qualifying time in New York because they only take the top applicants. They don't give you a buffer. It's not like Boston where you're in if you're in, if you're past the buffer. With New York, they might say your qualifying time is 3:38 for a 45-year-old woman, but they're only taking people that run 3:12.
See, that must have changed.
That changed because that's
Because
not how
when
we got in.
when we registered, we just put in our time and we were in.
Got a bid.
Right.
That was
Well,
3 years ago.
I just got rejected from Sydney because I don't know if you guys heard about the high performance program in Sydney. The qualifying times for the high performance program were similar to Chicago, basically like 3:38. And then it was Chicago. If you have that time, you get guaranteed entry. You can just you get your bib, right? But for the Sydney high performance program, it turns out they only took a very limited number of the people that registered in that program. So like I applied with the 3:24 and I didn't get in. And I saw lots of stories about people who had 30 and 40 minutes and still didn't get in with that kind of buffer. So, you never know. Guaranteed entry is always a great thing to have because, some of these cutoff systems can be, very merciless. I'm never going to be running a sub-3, so I'm probably not going to get elite spaces in some of these marathons, but there's lots of other ways to kind of get in, right? So the Strava thing gave me access to New York, meaning that next year I'll be running, Tokyo and New York, and then we'll see what else.
So no sub-3? Never know.
I don't think so, but well, you know what? I think 3:15 would be a fun goal.
Okay.
How many years in the next? What do you think?
No, she's doing
Within the next-
3:20 in Tokyo.
Within the next 2 years.
Okay, so
We'll
you're
see.
doing 3:20 in Tokyo.
I'll try.
That means off your feet this Saturday.
Yeah.
Just one day. Just take the one
Just
day off your feet.
The afternoon. Just the
Tokyo.
afternoon.
Just the afternoon.
Well, I'll have to go see like a sporting event or something.
Sumo.
That's what I have done.
We'll
actually.
go see sumo that day.
Okay, good idea.
And
Actually,
then
a
I'll
few
force you to
times-
sit down.
In Boston, I went to see like baseball games before the marathon, and we went to see a soccer game in Berlin the day before the marathon. So that was I did get some time off my feet for that.
Oh, that must have been pretty cool.
It was really cool. We weren't able to get into like the is it Bundesliga, like that the top tier
one
teams.
Yeah.
But we went to see Hertha, which is I guess whatever the next tier is. I can't remember.
You know
But it
more
was-
about German soccer than I am. That's crazy. That's awesome.
I'm married to a Serbian guy, so
Okay.
yeah, I know a bit more about European sports than I ever thought I would.
Hey, can I ask you? I know we're wrapping up on time here, but I want to ask you about. I'm guessing you get energy from being involved in running, just kind of like me. You like organizing races. You're always, you're run Sage Creek. You're involved with MRA. Why do you do it? And what does it mean to you?
I think that it's amazing that running. I talked about like learning my body and then learning what I can do with running and feeling a sense of accomplishment and using it to sublimate emotions. But I love how you can be involved with running from so many different angles, whether you're writing about running or hosting a podcast about running or volunteering at an event or cheering or crewing someone, or there's so many different ways to support that human endeavor of running. And I guess I feel like it's important to give back where I can, because running has given me really a lot. And I do get genuine pleasure out of helping other people sort of realize, what running can do, and just explaining from my, relatively limited experience how like demystifying running for other people, because I think it can be very intimidating. I think a lot of people misinterpret running, and there's so many jokes about running, like, oh, if you see me running, you better run too, because there's probably a bear. Like, people assume that running is this really complicated, inaccessible thing. And it's one of the most human activities that you can do. Like, our bodies are built to run. And I get a lot of pleasure, I think, from supporting the running community in Winnipeg, because they have been so supportive of me. And like, they're just my people, you know? And there are definitely times when, giving back can be more onerous than others. But I think it's really amazing how runners gravitate to each other, even if it's just saying, hey, as you pass by, like on a path, because we're all united by this drive to do this thing that other people don't understand. Um, and you just see somebody else running past you in the dark or the rain, or, you know, that's your, whatever other differences the two of you might have, you have that thing in common, which just connects you. And I really feel that about the running community here, and I like to give back when I can.
I got to tell a story. You probably know this. When I first really met you, and I think I knew you through Strava, and I knew about you, and I knew, but the first time I ever met you, you said hi to me. I don't know if you remember this, on the morning of the hypothermic half.
I was with you too, Rob.
Charlie and I were running.
Okay.
Charlie and I were
We
running.
were doing our warm up, or not our warm up, but
we were doing our 8 miles prior to the 13 that we were about to do, because that was our tough workout for Austin, or I forget what it was, whatever it was. And you were like right by the Dairy Queen there on Provencher.
Yep, that's
and
right.
You said, hey, Rob, like super. And I was like, my brother's like,
Who is that?
Who the hell knows you? That you, because I had just kind of started. And I was like, I don't know who that is. And I was trying to rack my brain. And
you had your big raccoon hat, I think.
I had my big raccoon,
my
dead animal,
whatever that is.
But
and then I saw you. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I knew who you were, partly because you were working with the MRA. So I was on the board, and I had heard, I think I might have also seen you at another event as well, possibly also wearing the raccoon hat. But I knew that you were doing a fundraiser, and that was confirmed for me when you spoke at the Hypo Half and talked about the fundraiser. But I kind of recognized you from some things that I heard from Kathy, because I do the social media, so I exposed to a lot of things in the running community. I see a lot of, like, glancingly, I know a lot of things that are going on. But yeah, I definitely, like, I knew who you were for a few months before that.
You actually did what you just said you do. You did that to me. You're like, oh, I like just saying hi to people when I run, and you do that. You actually did that to me, and it made me feel so cool that day. It was like 6,
that's awesome.
5:30 in the morning or whatever. It was pitch dark. Charlie and I are out crushing miles, and you're like, smile on your face. Hey, great to see you.
Well, and if somebody walked by with a dead animal on their head and they weren't running, I probably wouldn't say hi.
So I don't know about you guys, but like now when I started running and I go to a race, I felt like it was a thing I did alone, and I didn't kind of know
imposter syndrome too.
But now I do a race, and I'm going to say hi to at least, like, I don't know that many people still as much as you guys, I bet you, but I'll still say hi to probably 15 people in a half marathon, let's say, during a race.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, WFPS was mental. Like, everyone who runs was there. Like, wild. You must have been, Jess, you must have just been like, I can't do this. There's too many people I know right now. It must have been hard for you.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because as the 2-hour pacer, a lot of the people that I would normally run with, were not running at that same pace. And I was in the volunteers tent prior to the race, and then after the race, kind of doing, like, finishing up things. It just wasn't, when you're kind of attached to the volunteering role, like pacing, it does change the race experience a bit. So I didn't do as much hanging out before and after as I would have loved to, but I was just blown away by that event. Like, it was such an amazing thing to be attached to, and the chance to be an ambassador and a pacer was.
How does one become an ambassador and pacer? I'd love to be an ambassador and pacer for WFPS.
Well,
because we talk about it on here, we promote it, we love it. It's Charlie's favorite race of the year. It's arguably my favorite race of the year.
City Park runners will do a call out for the ambassador program. I think what's happening now, there's a lot of us who are ambassadors for 2 years, and we're rotating up out of that, because it's been 2 years for us. So me and Gord Gunter and a few other people will be finishing up. So I imagine in the next couple of months, I'll do a call for volunteers usually on Instagram. City Park Runners will have like a Google form that you'll fill out. And usually you just have to talk about your contributions to the running community, what you would hope to get out of being an ambassador, kind of a little resume about your running, and then you submit that, and the great race committee for WFPS goes through those
Cool.
applications and chooses some ambassadors. When it comes to the Pacers, I think it was about 6 or 8 months before the run, there was another call out on Instagram where they asked for Pacers to apply. Same thing, Google form, similar to Manitoba Marathon pacing application. And then they just let you know if you're successful.
Nice. You did a great job at pacing.
Thanks.
Congrats.
It was
Great
really
run.
fun.
Charlie, do you have anything else? We're way past our time here.
No, it was fun chatting. Nice to talk to you a little bit longer than 1 minute. So.
Yeah, it was awesome.
This was fun. I think we'll have to make our way when we're training for our backyard, Charlie, and we're trying to get weird running hours of the day. Maybe we go run with Jess and them when they're doing their 4 a.m. runs.
Absolutely. We would love that.
Do like a 30K at 4 a.m. on a Sunday or whatever you guys do, the crazy times that you guys run.
4 a.m.
People say stuff like that. I get heart palpitations. I get excited. I don't know. It's so funny. Like, let's let her run.
Yeah, well, so tomorrow morning I'm doing my 100K for my sobriety, and it's
wow.
And I can't tell you how excited I am today. Like it's just been like all day looking at the map, and like so I get how excited that you get. And I mean, nothing is more exciting than the Saturday night before your long run, and you're planning where you're going to go and what you're going to bring and what you're going to wear for the weather, and you're checking the wind, and like I love that, and I get excited, and I think all of us. Degenerates, we're on the same page for running degenerates. It's a reference term.
I love that.
Degenerates. Okay, so I want to thank you for your time today. Jess, do you want to plug anything?
I do want to plug just a couple of things related to the Manitoba Runners Association. We have a fundraiser coming up on November 1st. It's a pancake breakfast fundraiser that's at Silver Heights Restaurant.
Okay.
And tickets are available on Race Roster, but only for like the next day or so. You can also make a donation to the MRA if you can't attend. And if you are part of the MRA and you want to come to the awards celebration, which is on November 30th, it's at Centro Kuboto, and we give all our awards for the year, Runners of the Year, Celebration Series, Classic Series. I've got the most points in the Classic Series in my age category for 3 years running, which I thought is pretty good. It's pretty consistent. So you can buy tickets for that online as well.
For 3 years running?
Running, but I'm Jane. No, 3 years in a row.
Super funny. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate this. I enjoyed this. It was so fun to chat with you. And thanks for sharing everything. I wish you good luck. I will see you and we're going to see each other in Tokyo for sure. And I'll see you at the other races around here. And we might try to make our way down Saturday morning for the breakfast with the Run Club. We got to buy those tickets soon if we're not at Game 6 or Game 7. So thank you so much.
Yeah, right.
Jess Drakul. And remember, guys, more miles, less pace. We'll see you in the next one.